Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and I want to welcome you to my tutorial on installing the RenderX XEP print formatting software on Windows and configuring it to work with the Oxygen XML editor. So I'm doing this on the 64-bit Windows 7, which is up to date here in the spring of 2016. I'm expecting it to be pretty similar to the experience on Windows 10, although I'm not using Windows 10 yet, so you're going to be on your own for that. I'm assuming that you've got licenses for both products. If people in my XML for Libraries course, which I'm recording this for, although I expect to get a lot more use out of the recording, but people in those courses have a license to both products. So if you're not in the course and you don't have a license to the products, you can probably get some kind of a demo license. But my people have got licenses. Okay, here we go. So I just want to kind of show you what we have here. Let's fire up the Oxygen XML editor, which I've created an icon for on the taskbar. Okay. And I just want to show you that we don't have a processor installed. We don't have the XEP processor installed when we start. So on Windows, within Oxygen, the way that you look at the preferences that are installed is you go up to the menu, click on Options, then Preferences. And the ones that we're interested in are under the XML grouping. And also now it's under XSLTFO xQuery. So open that. And we have a category, a tab for FO processors. And what we see is that we're going to use the built-in Apache FOP processor, which would be good. We wouldn't have to install that. That is in theory already installed, but unfortunately it doesn't have the best of performance. And there's a lot of bugs in FOP. And I really like the XCP processor, and the good folks at RenderX have been good enough to give us a license for our course. And I've been using this processor for a good 10 years. So I'm very happy with it. And I think that you will be too. So we can see from the radio button that we just have the built-in Apache FOP open source XSLT print formatter installed. And you can look down the bottom and we can see where we can add other processors. And one it says add XEPFO processor, and it wants us to point to the executable file, and we can browse to it. But we don't have that installed on our machine yet. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to install that, then we'll come back here and we'll do the install. So I'm going to cancel out of this, and I'm going to close the product. So then the question is going to be, we're going to take a pause here for just a second. Okay, we're back. And I had a sort of version of the tutorial that I did where I didn't get to the end of it, and I had to take the time to get rid of the files and put us in the state where you would be when you're starting this. Okay, now before we start to download files and stuff for XEP, let's make sure we have Java installed. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, The easiest way is to go to All Programs and then Accessories, and we're going to pick on the command prompt. And you just type in Java space hyphen version. Okay, and we can see here we've got Java SE runtime environment for Java 1.8.0 build 77B03. And that's just what we need. Okay, so that looks good. Yesterday, when I tried to do this first time, I went and I saw that I didn't have Java installed, even though I was using the Oxygen XML editor. And even though that's Java-based, the copy of Java that we were using for that was installed with the product, and it wasn't more generally installed in my operating system. So I had to go to java.oracle.com, and I had to find the download of the Java SE operating system. I installed the JDK for Java 1.8. You could install the JRE, but I always like having the JDK. That has all the parts, including the developer parts on it. So I installed that, and you would have to do that too. If you ran this command that we just did, and it said Java command not found, that would mean that we didn't have Java properly installed on our Windows operating system. So we would have to take a pause from our tutorial here and then go and get that installed. And again, go to java.oracle.com and look for the download of the Java SE current version of the JDK. You can't go wrong with that. Okay, and then when you install it, when you're done, you should be able to come back. And I'm just going to press the up arrow here on the command line. So we'll go back to the command we're just on. You type in Java space dash version, and if you have it properly installed, then you'll see it there. So we have that properly installed, and we're in good shape. Okay, so what's the next thing that we need to do? Well, the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we have the XEP software that we want to install. Now, in the current semester for my XML for Libraries course, I've put that information out on our D2L system. In subsequent semesters, I'll put it probably in another place where, because the license is only for our class, only people from our class are allowed to get to it, okay? In which case I'll point you to another place. But right now we're on D2L, so I'm going to go and log into D2L. And I'm going to use my little home page to find my way there. And I'm going to go to our course, XML for Libraries. And I'm going to go to the Content tab. And you'll see that I have, within the table of contents, I have a tab for RenderX XEP software. That's what we want. Okay, and if we click on that, we'll see we've got two files here. I've got a PDF that has the download instructions on it. Okay, and I'm just going to download that. So I'm going to say I want to download, save the file. So I'll go to my downloads. And the license file is an XML file, and I want to download that as well. Save file. And I'm all set. So I should have the things that I need, okay? So let's go look at downloads, see what we got. So there's license.xml. That's in good shape. Okay. Here is the RenderX XEP download instructions email. And it says that it's a Firefox HTML document, but I believe it's actually a PDF. But Firefox is able to open it, so it claims that it's an HTML document. So that's a little bit of a misrepresentation. So we're going to open that up. And this is an email that I got from my friend Kevin Brown at RenderX, who I've been working with for a good 10 years. And he's always been willing to give us academic licenses for the students to use in my class during the class. And he did here. And he shows us the download instructions. And the download instructions have a link that we're going to use to get to the proper place to download the software. And this is a slightly different URL than you would be using if you just went to their website and clicked on the downloads link. So you definitely want to use this URL instead of simply going to the RenderX website and going to downloads. So if we click on this, we're going to see that in fact we go to the RenderX website and we go to downloads, but we're going to a page within the downloads directory called updates.html. And we're at this thing that says update current software, which looks a little different than you would look at if you went to just the regular download page that you would get when you clicked on this download link. Okay, so what does it need? It needs our license key. Well, we downloaded that. So that's in my downloads directly. So I'm going to directory. I'm going to browse. And I'm just going to highlight license and click on open. And you can see it's pointing to license XML. So that's what we need. And now we're just going to click on update. And that's going to cause the download of the update file. You'll see it's coming as a zip. Okay, and I just want to save it. Okay, so let's minimize this copy of Firefox. And let's look at the download. And here it is. It's a zip file, XEP 4.24. It's from back in 2015. Okay. Now, I don't really like to be working in these compressed directories in Windows. What I really like to do is to left click on this to highlight it. Now I'm going to right click on it. Probably could have just right clicked on it to start. And I'm going to click extract all. So extract all is going to extract it right to the directory where we are now, right in downloads. And when we get done, we're going to have a proper subdirectory. So we have a proper subdirectory under downloads that has our files. Okay, that's good. Now, it's always nice to see that there is a Readme file. Okay, so we've got a Readme file here. The Readme file, the first thing it says is to make sure we have Java installed. Okay. It says here that we can run the setup from the jar file. Okay. Although I'm a little bit suspicious, because let's look at that directory again. I'm going to close that, the editor there. There's a setup batch file. So I'm thinking that maybe the setup batch file is going to run the executable jar for us. So let's just try double clicking on that. Oh, that's not going to work. Sorry. here's the trick. Whichever of these you run, okay, you need to run as the administrator. This is a problem I had when I tried this yesterday afternoon unsuccessfully. I tried to type in the command to run this Java jar file directly, and that's fine, but I didn't run it as an administrator and it wouldn't install. So I'm going to go to the batch file called setup, right click on that, and I'm going to pick run as administrator. So let's do that. And it looks like it's going to try to run something. Say yes. And how's this going? Well, not seeing a lot of evidence that it's working. I'm going to take a pause and look around. I don't think they did anything, but I'll be back. Okay, well, the fact is that it did not really do anything for us. So let's do it the manual way. Okay, how are we going to do it? Open up the Readme again. Okay. And there's a command line here. There's a command to be entered at the command line that is going to run the Java virtual machine, and it's going to run in the mode where it executes a JAR file. And it's the JAR file that's named setup 4.24, etc., that's in our current directory. So that sounds good. So we need to get to that current directory and we need to issue this command. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, we have to do two things. First of all, we have to get ourselves a command prompt. And I have one down on my taskbar, but that command prompt is not working in the administrator mode. So let's go and find a command prompt. Again, go to All Programs, Accessories, and I'm going to right click on command prompt and say run as administrator. If I don't run the command prompt as administrator, it's not going to run this jar file. I know this because I tried it yesterday. So left click, run as administrator, say yes, I want to do it. And here's my window. Okay. Now, what I need is I need to navigate to the downloads folder. How am I going to do that? Well, let's do that. So we're going to change the directory. And we're going to change it to C:\\. That's the root directory. CD space C:\\. And then we're up there, we're going to do a dir to see what the directory is. And we see that one of the subdirectories is users. So let's go there. Let's say change directory CD space users. And it turns out that capitalization is not significant in the file names in this operating system, so we don't have to worry about it. And you can see from our prompt that we are in users, so we got there. So let's do a dir directory, see what's there. And in my machine, the user is Kevin Trainer, that's me. So now I'm going to do a cd change directory Kevin Trainer. And we can see from the prompt that I found my way there. So let's do a dir to see that. And now I see in that directory we have a downloads. So I'm going to change directory cd space downloads, not worrying about the capitalization. And now we see that we're at downloads. Okay, and let's do a dir there. And here we are. We're in all of these things. So now we need to get to the directory that we just unzipped. Now this one is called XEP 4.24, blah, 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 blah. Now we could do some cutting and pasting, but the easiest thing to do is just to change the directory cd space XEP hyphen 4.24 hyphen 2015 hyphen 09 hyphen 25 carriage return. And now you can see from our prompt that that's the directory that we're in. So let's do a dir. And our executable jar file is right there. So if we wanted to execute the jar file, we need to use this line that was in the README. Okay, Java space hyphen jar blah blah blah. So I'm going to be lazy here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to highlight it. Okay, and I'm going to right click and say copy. And now I'm going to go to the command prompt and I'm going to click right where the cursor blinks. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say paste. And it's going to type in exactly that line. And if I hit carriage return, it's going to run the installer. Well, that's nice. So where is it going to install the files? Well, C program files, renderx, XEP, that's where we're going to expect those to go. That's a good place for them. We need to point it to the license file again. Remember that we had that in downloads. So browse. Let's go to users Kevin Trainer. Let's go to downloads. Let's highlight license.xml and open it. And looks like everything's fine. We don't want to activate later because we have a proper license code. So this will activate right now. So let's click on install. And it says that XEP installation is successful. And it says that the GNU free font package is not installed. And since we're not counting on the GNU free font package in my class, then that's going to be just fine. So I'm going to say finish. Okay, so it looks like it's properly installed, but it's not hooked up to the Oxygen XML editor. So I can close this command prompt by typing exit, and it goes away. And I think we're just fine. We don't need to deinstall it. Let's close the README. Okay, and let's just go look and see if we can find the installation. Okay, so I'm going to go to the link for the computer, look on the C drive, look at program files. Now there's a subdirectory there for renderx. Open that. Now there's a directory for XEP. And here are all of the things here. Now, what is interesting is I happen to know from experience that what we want to connect the Oxygen XML editor to is this batch file, this Windows batch file called XEP. So we're going to get into the product and then we're going to navigate our way to point to this and click on the buttons and we're going to get a proper install. Okay, let's see that. So I'm just going to go down to the taskbar and click the icon that I have for the Oxygen XML editor. Let that fire up. Okay, and as I said before, the way we get to preferences in the Windows version of this, click on Options, Preferences. And this is one of the XML settings, so we're going to expand that. And this is one of the XSLTFO XQuery settings, so we're going to expand that. And this is an FO processor setting, so we're going to click on that. And now we're going to go down below these external FO processors window, and there's a special way to install the XEPFO processor, and it says that we want to point to an executable file, and that's the .bat file. So we're going to browse, and where do we go? Let's go to Computer, C Drive, Program Files, RenderX, XEP, and then we want to point at the Windows batch file called XEP, this one right here. And now we are going to click Open. And it says that the XEPFO processor is installed. That sounds pretty good to me. All right. So we are going to pause here. And then the very last thing that we're going to do is run the demonstration stuff to demonstrate to ourselves that we really have it installed. Back in a moment. Okay, and we're back. So let's run a test to make sure we have everything properly installed. So eventually in our XML course, we're going to learn how to write an XSLT transformation that will surround the data with XSLFO tags, and we'll use that to print our documents using the XEP print formatter. But for right now, let's see if we can find some sample documents to use. And it turns out that with our installation, we got examples. Unfortunately, they are stuck in a part of the operating system that has only privileged access to the file. So we need to copy. Let's go to where we just installed the software. Let's go to Computer, Local Disk C, Program Files, RenderX, XEP, and we'll see that there's a subdirectory here, Examples. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to copy this. And where I'm going to copy to, just to my Documents directory. So I'm going to click on Documents. And then I'm going to right-click in the white space, paste. And you'll see that in Examples here, I've got a bunch of examples. The one that I like the most is the hammer. This is a user manual for a hammer. Now you may say to yourself, don't think I need a user manual for a hammer. Well, that's the idea. It's a pretty basic document, but it's extensive, okay? There are two files. There's one that's an XML document that has the content for the manual. And there's another one that's an XSLT style sheet, and that's the transformation that is going to pull the content out of hammer.xml, and it's going to surround it with tags from the XSLFO tag set, and it's going to send them off to the XSLFO print formatter, and in this case, the XEP one. Okay, so let's close this, okay, and let's not close that, sorry. I want to open up the hammer file. I'm just going to the way I installed the Oxygen XML editor, I did say that I wanted to be able to open any .xml file with the Oxygen XML editor. So I'm able to double click on this and get it open in the Oxygen XML editor. If you didn't do that, you might have to do right click open with. Okay, and then you might have to choose the program to get to the Oxygen XML editor. But for me, I can just double click on hammer.xml and it's going to open it up in the XML editor, which is what I want. Okay, so I'm going to close that welcome banner. And we can see that this is a document. The file makes part of an XSL test suite. Okay, and purpose of this document is to illustrate handling complex layout patterns in the extended style sheet language, blah, 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 blah. And it's a user manual for a hammer. Okay, now what's the other file that we want? Well, let's click up here on the toolbar icon for open, and what we want is the hammer XSLT style sheet, which is hammer.xsl. So let's open that and take a look at this. And if you're familiar with XSLT, you'll see that the root element is XSL style sheet. And you can also see here that pretty early on in the first of the templates, or well, first couple templates we have one for copyright, and we're already enclosing content in a FO block element, which is part of the XSLFO tag set. So and we can see down here we're enclosing some more content there. So that's definitely what we want. So how do we run the transformation? Well, you probably have already had a chance to run an XSL transformation scenario in the Oxygen product, but if you haven't, the way you get started is pick a file. I find it's always easiest to pick the XML content file. So I'm going to be on Hammer. Then I'm going to go up to the lower of the two toolbars, and I'm going to find the red play button. And right to the right of that is a wrench with a little red play, and that's the settings for transformation. So I'm going to click on that wrench, and it says we want to configure a transformation scenario. Well, I don't have any yet, so I'm going to click on the new button. And I'm going to pick XML transformation with XSLT, because that's what we're doing. Okay? Now, because we were on the XML content document when we started this process, excuse me, then the URL of the XML document is already set. Okay, so we need a pair. We need the XML document and we need the XSL document. You'll find that XSLT and XSL are used kind of interchangeably. So let's just go over and open the file icon and point to Hammer. Okay, well, that looks good. All right. Now, what you'll see here is we got the full path all the way to Hammer, starting at the very top of our file system. Well, the assumption about how style sheets are related to content documents is, unless you tell the tool otherwise, it's going to assume they're in the same directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go all the way out to the right side of this thing, and I'm going to take off all the path, everything before hammer.xsl. I'm going to back it off. Okay? Because they're in the same directory, and that's all I need. Okay, that's fine. So we have our XML content document. We've got the XSL or XSLT properly selected. Now, I just want to get you in the habit of picking an XSLT transformation engine that is going to be appropriate for all the settings that I typically use in my class. And that is not Saxon 6.5.5, but something like Saxon PE 9.6.07 would work just fine. Okay? For our example here, we probably don't have to change it, but I want to get you in the habit. So this transformation scenario has 3 tabs. We've been on the XSLT tab. Okay, we set the XML content document, we sent the XSLT file, we pick the right transformation engine. Now the second tab, we pick an FO processor. Okay, first of all, we need to check the box that says FO processing, perform FO processing. Now it wants us to, and the method that we want is PDF. We want the output to be a PDF. Okay, the processor, well, it's set to the default Apache FOP. The great thing about Apache FOP, free. The disappointing thing about it, Apache FOP, it doesn't really do all the formatting the way I would expect it to be done. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to select XEP. So since we've already set up XEP, there it is. Okay, now we're not ready for OK yet. We want to go to Output. So the third part is the Output tab. Okay, so we need to save this as somefile.pdf. And the way I typically do this is I click on this little icon here where we have the ... And I pick one of the macro names. And I always pick the current file name without extension, which is $ curly braces CFN. So when I left click that, it'll just insert that. So it's going to take the current file name, and I'm going to say .pdf. Okay, and what directory is that going in? It's going to go in the same directory as the XML document in the XSLT, which for my purposes right now is just what I want. Do I want anything else? Yes, I would like it to be open in a browser or systems application. In my case, it's going to just open the PDF. Okay, now I have everything that we want. I filled in the XSLT tab. I filled in the XEPFO Processor tab. I filled in the Output tab. Now I can click OK. You'll see that it now appears in the transformation scenario. It just simply took, I think, the name of the XSLT. And how do I get it to run? Well, I just click Apply Associated. And now you're going to see some action in the lower half of the screen. And that quickly, we did the transformation and we opened the PDF. In this case, my copy of Windows is set up so that PDFs are opening in Firefox. So that's what we have. But here's the document, proper PDF, 5 pages long, title page, some kind of front matter, table of contents, and content. We even see graphics figures. We see more graphics. We see tables. This is really showing us all the capabilities of XSLFO. And then we get down to the copyright. This is one that they've had for quite a long time. Haven't changed it since 2001, but it still works. Okay, so that's what we wanted. Okay, everything seems to be working fine. So at this point, we have everything installed. Now, I just want to say, let's say you had done that transformation. Okay, maybe your data was a little bit wrong. So you would go into the XML content document. Now, how could you run something? Well, if you didn't know if you had a transformation scenario for it or not, you would make sure on the tab for the XML document, go up and click on this wrench icon, left click on it, and it'll list the scenarios. And here it's going to run every scenario that's check marked. So hammer is ready to go. So we're just going to leave that ready to go. If we wanted a different one, we would uncheck hammer and check that one. And then we can just click apply associated. And away it runs. Okay, so that's pretty easy. And then the other thing is, like the other run buttons, okay, transformations can be run a second time or a third time. So if you're just changing the content in the XML document, or you're changing the transformation instructions in the .xsl document, change those, save the files, come back to your XML document tab, and then just click on the red play button. Okay, so it will replay the last transformation just by clicking on the red play button. And that is it. We have XEP installed. We've been able to run a sample, and we're all good. So I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.